father near financial ruin and possibly dying, asking me for money to help again. How do I deal with the situation? Looking for advice or just a place to get some opinions on dealing with my father. In short, I am and my father. I have been married for a few years to a beautiful wife with a child on the way, just recently bought a house, and generally life is good, financially okay. My parents divorced when I was young, but both my parents were there and helped raise me and co-parent until I graduated high school. My father, since I graduated high school, moved away out of state, then out of the country to, I presume, start a new life. He's been struggling with failed businesses and a lack of money, along with having started a new family with a son that is now 10 years old. He previously bought a restaurant and was evicted off the property due to the previous owner not paying rent, and he didn't find out until they came to evict. His most recent business venture was to rent land in the same tourist town and build a bed and breakfast along with a restaurant as some sort of retirement play. It's failed, hasn't turned a profit since before the pandemic, and the owner wants to sell the land. Why the fuck would you build anything on land you don't own is beyond me, especially given the previous experience. He's now teetering on complete failure, and has maybe a week to cough up unpaid/back rent to the tune of about $6,500, otherwise he will be evicted. He's asked me to help him again. This is not the first time, as previously I co-signed a loan with him before the pandemic and he stopped being able to pay the loan, and I paid back the remaining $12,000 on the notion that I would no longer help him financially. My problem is that not only is he financially fucked, but he's also very ill with what he says is hepatitis. Additionally, because he's an alcoholic, I think it made it worse, and he basically refuses to go to the hospital because he doesn't want to spend the money. I fear he may die. He's stopped drinking, but without proper treatment he's not getting better. I can tell from video calls that he is indeed sick, yellowish eyes, pale skin, and has lost a significant amount of weight. On the one hand, his bad decisions led him to this place, and he's waited until the last minute to try and find a solution. He seems to refuse to ask his father, my grandfather, for money out of some sort of sense of pride. He also doesn't seem to want to give up, cut his losses, and either go back to the country where I live, or go back to the country where he's from and get help. Both would be better than the country he is now, even though healthcare is cheap. Grandpa could easily help as he has the money, but there is some sort of bad blood between them that I don't know about, to where they don't want to talk about it. Too much pride and Eastern European sensibilities, I think. I'm at a loss of what to do. I want to say no and at best offer money to get care, but I feel like it'll be rejected and he will be out on the street. I have some ups and downs with my father at times, and it's not been the greatest of relationships. He didn't come to my wedding even though I offered to pay for a ticket, and it hurt. I think he didn't want to go because he didn't want to face my mother, who has been more successful, happy, and flourishing since their divorce. I've also spoken to my wife, and she's fairly adamant that we do not help after the loan fiasco from last time, that and the fact that my father has made little effort to get to know her, visit, or anything to that effect, all of which I agree with. Not to mention financially, we could use the money for our child that is coming in a few months. Should I help him again, help him with only medical stuff, or not at all? Comment. You set a boundary with the $12,000 being the last help you would give. Stick to that. If you don't, this will continue to happen. Your lack of support may send him to your grandfather, and that is okay. By helping him, you are not only enabling his behavior but taking funds from your growing family. Listen to your wife. If she says no, that is the answer. You need to look out for your household now. Once you say no, he will have no choice but to turn to someone else. Surely his wife has family, or he can turn to his dad/your grandfather. Maybe give your grandfather some warning that you were asked and that you said no. You are not responsible for his bad decisions, and if you help him, you would be enabling him to continue down that road. There must be some way to recoup money from the B&B and restaurant. If he's made improvements on the land, i.e. built a bloody business with buildings, he must be able to get some money for those improvements from the landlord, or at the least, strip the buildings and sell chattels and materials. Give him $500 and tell him to use it for a lawyer and some legal advice. As for anything more, tell him that you are not in a position to help any further after paying off his last loan. As for the health problems, if he's got liver disease and is drinking, he will get limited help. The very first thing they'll do is tell him stop drinking. Sometimes people have to help themselves first. It's tough, but he isn't being fair to you, and he's not even trying. He isn't really part of your family, and he's not doing his part in attending weddings or being part of family activities, but he's using you and your sense of familial duty to help. One last thing. He is 61. He hasn't reached retirement age. He can get a job. Don't rob from your child to bail your dad out. He'll just burn through that money and come back for more. Don't do this to your wife. I know it's painful, but there is nothing you can do to fix that man. He does not want help, he just wants money. You're only 9 years older than my son, so please accept a little motherly advice from this old lady. Your father is not your responsibility. Ever. Period. If you had the means and wanted to help, well, that would be just lovely of you. But this children have to care for their elderly parents thing is bullshit. You didn't choose to be born, and you sure AF didn't force feed him the booze or make his businesses fail. I would check myself out before I would ever put my son in that position, because we're close AF and he'd wreck his own life trying to salvage mine. The bottom line is what you and your wife decide together is what goes. And yeah, it's a shit sandwich, and you'll probably feel guilty whichever choice you make, so figure out which decision is worth the guilt. First, someone looking for money/support will review their options from most convenient to least convenient. When you're asked by someone in a hard position, it may feel like you're the difference between their chance to succeed and their chance to fail. But you're really just the next stop on the list. There was an easier one before you and there will be a harder one after you. Second, what appears to be a crisis is often the end of the illusion that things were working. It's rare that someone is actually in a situation where they were okay before and they'll be okay after, if they can just resolve one immediate issue. Dad, I have no more money to lend. You have more money, but not to lend. Dad, I can't lend you any more money until you pay me back the $12,000 you owe me. Dad, you are turning yellow and are going to die of liver failure. Go to the hospital now. It seems this is a recurring theme with your father. He gets in trouble, you try to help him financially and then get stuck paying off, I presume, a personal loan, which is usually a higher interest rate because higher risk because he quits paying. It is hard, but your wife is correct, as you can't keep throwing good money after bad. And sadly you don't honestly know what the money is being spent on. Is he actually paying the debt? Is he drinking it or something else? Story 2. My boyfriend of 3 years cheated on me and now he's crying for my forgiveness. My BF cheated on me with a coworker. I always suspected something with, and asked him a couple of times to end communication. 45 days ago, he broke up with me, saying we don't have a future together. He still kept the communication, sent me flowers to apologize for hurting me ever. He even once cried a lot over a video call for hurting me. Now I learned it was right after he slept with her. 2 days back I found out, he is in a relationship with the said girl, which started before he ended things with me. I was deeply hurt because he made it sound like situational, and we ended things peacefully. And I was his day one woman, who stood by him through the worst of times. And helped him do good in his career and life. Which he tells everyone he owes me big time. However, out of spite, I told the other girl how their relationship started. And how he was still staying in touch with me, when I asked him not to. Which caused issues in their relationship. Now he has ended things with her, been crying for 2 days straight, has hurt himself and calling me all day to ask for forgiveness. He's telling me he finally understands that what he has done to me. And I'm really indifferent to his pain, because while I let him go, I've been crying and hurting ever since over the breakup. I don't know how to forgive him. All I tell him is I don't want him in my life and don't want to talk to him, and he starts crying hysterically. He has gone totally nuts, hitting himself, trying to hurt himself. I asked his friends to look out for him. I don't understand what can I do, because I just don't have it in me to forgive him. I stayed by his side during the toughest times, when it was painful to even be in a relationship with him. And I didn't deserve this. But at the same time, it hurts me to see him in pain. How do I deal with this situation? How do I forgive and move on from this? And how do I make him understand that I can't be there in his life, without him hurting himself? Comment. Not your circus, not your monkeys. He knows what he did. Welcome to the find out era. Whatever he chooses to do, that's on him. Do not sign yourself up for a lifetime of being his emotional support human while he careens from one shit decision to the next. He had it all, then he made the choice to ruin it. You tell him it's over. You move on. As long as he keeps running back to you and using you as his emotional confessional, it's going to be nearly impossible to forgive him. Forgiveness takes time, and forgiveness does not mean that you need to allow him back in your life now or ever. The next time he pull this crap with hurting himself because he is angry at himself, tell him that you will be calling an ambulance for him, but he cannot call you again after that. Then block him. Stop allowing him to have access to you. Let him cry. He just butthurt that he lost you and his backup. He cheated, dumped you for her under the illusion it was just you grew apart to make him seem a better guy. Block him, change your number. Stop giving him the time of day. If he approaches, you call the police. Guy sounds like a loser. If you'd rather send him a message before blocking him, then do so. But don't give false hope where there is none. I'm going to block you as I think it's best for us both. I don't want you back, and I never will. That ship sailed when you cheated, and now you got dumped for lying and manipulating people. You think little old me is so weak-minded that a few tears would make me want you back. I don't wish you any bad, but I don't want you in my life as a friend or partner. Take this as a life lesson. You're 28 years old, you're pushing 30, and after everything I've done for you, you thought all I deserved was lies and more lies. Do not contact me or approach me, or I will have to involve the police. Take care. Then block. Block that cheating fucker and forget about his crying. He doesn't deserve forgiveness since he hasn't earned it. He'll get the message sooner or later that you won't be there for him anymore. If he hurts himself, he hurts himself. He's not your problem. If you're really worried he might commit suicide, then call the police and ask them to handle it. But I don't believe for a minute he's sincere, and even if he is, it's still emotional abuse and you shouldn't have to deal with him at all. Cut him out of your life. His unhappiness is not your concern. If you're really worried he might commit suicide, then call the police and ask them to handle it. But I don't believe for a minute he's sincere, and even if he is, it's still emotional abuse and you shouldn't have to deal with him at all. Cut him out of your life. His unhappiness is not your concern.